They whispered before she even walked into the room. Some whispers were curious, some were cruel, and some were just lazy echoes of the same old prejudice dressed up as concern. Nyla Johnson had learned long ago to pretend she could not hear them. But when you are 17, black, queer, and the most visible student in your entire school, pretending is an art form that drains you dry. She had been elected class president not once but twice, and her peers adored her. Teachers praised her intelligence, her leadership, and the calm maturity she carried like a shield. But under that surface was a girl who still cried into her pillow when the lights went out, who still wondered if she was too much, too loud, too dark, too gay for the world she lived in. And now prom was coming, the night meant to celebrate youth and joy and possibility. Except for Nyla, prom was about to become a battlefield. Nyla's girlfriend, Emily Carter, was everything soft where Nyla was steel, pale-skinned, with freckles across her nose and nervous hands that always sought Nyla's for reassurance. Emily had grown up in a conservative white family that barely tolerated their friendship, let alone their love. When Emily first kissed Nyla under the bleachers on a rainy afternoon, she trembled so much Nyla had to laugh and hold her steady. But love had a way of making them both fearless, at least in the stolen moments. The problem was that stolen moments could not last forever. Prom was public, loud, undeniable. Walking in together meant declaring war on silence itself. And war never came without casualties. Nyla's mother, Denise, folded laundry with sharp, jerking motions the night Nyla told her. "You're telling me you want to walk into prom, in front of the whole school, holding hands with this girl?" Her voice was tight, brittle like glass about to crack. Nyla swallowed. "Not just holding hands. She's my date. I love her, Mama." Her father, Marcus, was quieter, staring at the television but not watching it. "You know what people will say. You know what this will bring down on you. On us." "I know," Nyla said, her voice shaking. "But I can't live for what they'll say anymore." Denise slammed a shirt down onto the couch. "Baby, you think I don't want you happy? But we've worked our whole lives to protect you from this world. People still look at us like we don't belong in our own neighborhood. And now you want to give them another reason to hate." Marcus finally spoke, low and heavy. "They already hate, Dee. They don't need reasons." The silence that followed was more brutal than shouting. Nyla wanted to scream that her happiness should matter more than the whispers of neighbors or the judgments of strangers. She wanted to remind them that the same community now wagging its finger at her had once celebrated her victories, clapped when she gave speeches, smiled when she brought home trophies. But love, it seemed, had turned her from their pride into their scandal. At school, the storm brewed faster than anyone expected. Flyers for prom went up, and by the next morning, the hallways buzzed with the news. "She's bringing Emily," a boy muttered by the lockers, not even bothering to lower his voice. A teacher overheard and frowned but said nothing. By lunchtime, a petition was circulating anonymous at first, then quickly revealed to be pushed by a group of parents demanding that the school maintain traditional values. Nyla walked into the cafeteria with Emily, holding her hand tight. Conversations dipped into silence. I followed them. Some kids smiled encouragement. Others smirked or whispered. Emily's hand trembled. "You okay?" Nyla asked softly. Emily nodded, though her eyes glistened. "As long as I'm with you." But Nyla saw the fear. She felt it too, a knot in her stomach that would not untangle. That night, a message arrived in the school's parent group chat. Screenshots flew across phones. A teacher had posted about the inappropriateness of letting Nyla, the face of the student body, flaunt a lifestyle that confuses other children. The language was careful, coded, but the intent was not. Denise read it on her phone and her blood ran cold. Marcus saw her expression. "What now?" "They're turning this into a war," Denise whispered. Nyla overheard from the staircase. For the first time, she saw her parents not as protectors, but as people caught between two for society's cruelty and their daughter's truth. The week leading up to prom stretched like an eternity. Every day another rumor spread. Some said the school board might cancel the dance altogether. Others whispered that parents were organizing to protest outside. A few friends rallied around Nyla, but many stayed silent, afraid of being dragged into the fight. One afternoon, Nyla walked into the restroom and found graffiti on the wall. Slurs scrawled in black marker, aimed at her skin and her love. Her throat tightened, but she refused to cry where they could see. She pulled out her phone, snapped a photo, and sent it to the principal with the caption, "This is what you're teaching them." Principal Hernandez called her in the next day. "Nyla, I want you to know I support you. But my hands." He spread them helplessly. "The district is watching me. I can't promise I can stop everything." "Then what's the point of being principal?" Nyla shot back, her voice sharper than she intended. But she did not apologize. She was tired of apologies. Emily sat beside her, clutching her sleeve. The principal sighed. "You're brave. Braver than most adults I know. Just be careful. Careful. Always careful. Careful not to speak too loud. Not to dress too bold. Not to love too openly." Careful had become a prison. That night, Nyla lay awake staring at the ceiling. She thought of every time she had been told she was too much. She thought of every time she had been praised for leadership only to be reminded of her place. And she thought of Emily, whose soft smile had been her anchor. Maybe Nyla thought the time for careful had finally ended. Prom night arrived like a thunderstorm. The sky burned with streaks of orange fading into gold as the sun set, as if the world itself knew something momentous was about to unfold. Nyla stood before the mirror, her dress shimmering deep blue, her hair braided with tiny golden cuffs that caught the light. Emily appeared beside her, in a flowing silver gown, eyes wide with both terror and awe. "You look like a goddess," Emily whispered. "You look like the reason I fight," Nyla said. They clasped hands. For one night they would not hide. For one night they would choose joy over fear. But as they walked out the door, Denise called after them, her voice cracking. "Nyla, wait." Nyla turned. Her mother's face was pale, wet with unshed tears. Marcus stood behind her, his hand heavy on her shoulder. "You don't have to do this," Denise whispered. "We can leave town for the weekend. Avoid all of it." Nyla's heart ached. She saw the fear etched into her mother's face, the years of battles fought just to keep their family safe. And she saw the love too, fierce and trembling. "Mama," she said softly, "if I run tonight, I'll be running forever, and I can't live like that." Denise's lips pressed together. For a moment no one moved. Then Marcus spoke, low and steady. "Go, both of you, and hold your heads high." Nyla blinked, stunned. Her father's eyes met hers, and though his voice shook, his words carried weight. "If they want to fight, let them fight me first." Denise gasped, but Marcus did not look away. For the first time, Nyla felt the shield of her parents' love not as protection that caged her, but as armor she could carry into the world. She squeezed Emily's hand. Together, they walked out into the night, into the storm waiting for them. The parking lot was already crowded when Nyla and Emily arrived, headlights cutting across clusters of parents and students. Music pulsed from inside the gym, faint but steady, like a heartbeat daring them forward. But the parking lot itself carried a different rhythm: murmurs, side-eyed glances, and the faint glow of phone cameras waiting to capture the spectacle. Emily froze halfway out of the car. "They're staring already. They've been staring all our lives," Nyla said, forcing her voice steady though her chest burned. She reached out her hand. "Come on. Tonight we stare back." Emily's fingers tightened around hers, and for a moment, the fear melted into something stronger. They walked toward the entrance together, heels clicking against the pavement, dresses swaying in rhythm. And then came the first voice, sharp and cold. "This is disgusting," a parent hissed from the sidelines. A man in a suit, arms crossed, standing beside a woman whose lips were pressed so thin they nearly disappeared. "You're setting an example for children," the woman added. Nyla didn't break stride, but her jaw clenched. Emily's nails dug into her palm. Then, unexpectedly, a student in line turned around. "They look amazing," a girl shouted, her sequin dress catching the light. A few claps followed, hesitant at first, then louder. The tension snapped but didn't vanish. It shifted, coiling tighter. Inside the gym, streamers hung from the ceiling, glitter catching the golden lights strung like stars. The smell of punch and hairspray mixed with the thrum of bass. For a moment, it was almost normal, just another prom night, with too loud music and too tight shoes. But as Nyla and Emily walked in hand, the crowd split down the middle like the sea itself. Some students cheered, others whispered, and a few turned their backs. Teachers lined the walls, faces unreadable, some looking away entirely. At the far end, Principal Hernandez met Nyla's eyes and gave the smallest nod, as though to say, "I see you." Emily leaned close. "I think I might throw up." Nyla kissed her cheek, quick but certain. "Not tonight. Tonight you dance." But before they reached the dance floor, Ms. Whitmore, the English teacher who'd once praised Nyla's essays and now signed her name on the petition, stepped forward. "Nyla Johnson." Her voice was formal, sharp enough to cut. "I need a word." Nyla squared her shoulders. "We're in the middle of something." "This isn't appropriate," Whitmore said, eyes flicking to Emily. "You're a role model. Do you understand the pressure you're putting on this school?" "I understand that I was elected to represent the students," Nyla said, her voice steady. "And the students chose me. Not you." Gasps rippled. Emily's eyes widened. Whitmore's face flushed, but before she could reply, another Teach-era younger science instructor spoke up from the corner. "She's right. Let them be." The clash of voices rose around them, tension building like thunder. But then the DJ, oblivious or perhaps wise, cut into the chatter with a booming announcement. "All right, couples, grab your partners. Time for the first slow dance of the night." Music filled the room, soft and warm. Nyla didn't wait. She pulled Emily onto the floor, ignoring the daggers in Whitmore's eyes, ignoring the whispers. Students parted, watching. Emily trembled, then placed her arms around Nyla's shoulders, and Nyla wrapped her close. They swayed to the music, and in that moment, the world shrank to just them, the golden lights, the hum of bass, the rhythm of two hearts refusing to break. But outside the gym, another storm brewed. A group of parents had gathered near the entrance, holding signs hastily scrawled with slogans. "Protect our children," "Say no to immorality." Their voices filtered in, muffled chants clashing with the music. Some students slipped outside, filming on their phones. Inside, the atmosphere shifted again. Teachers huddled, debating in sharp whispers. The principal looked torn, his jaw tight. Emily whispered, "They're going to shut it down, aren't they?" Nyla looked into her eyes. "Then we make them see us first." She led Emily to the center of the floor, where all eyes already lingered. The music swelled, and Nyla lifted their joined hands high, spinning Emily until her silver dress shimmered under the golden lights. Cheers erupted, louder this time, students stamping their feet, clapping along. For every whisper, there was a shout. For every frown, a smile. The door burst open. The chanting outside grew louder, spilling into the gym like poison. Denise and Marcus were there, standing just inside, their faces grave. They had come not to drag Nyla home, not to shield her from sight, but to stand where everyone could see them. Marcus stepped forward first, placing himself between the parents outside and the children dancing inside. His voice carried, deep and unshaken. "My daughter deserves this night. She deserves her joy. If you want to take it from her, you'll go through me." Gasps again. Denise stood beside him, trembling but fierce. "We raised our daughter to lead with love. That's what she's doing. If that frightens you, maybe you should ask yourselves why." The gym roared not with disapproval, but applause. Students stomped harder, some chanting Nyla's name, others shouting Emily's. Teachers shifted, some looking ashamed, some moved to tears. Principal Hernandez lifted a hand, silencing the chaos with a single declaration. "This prom continues. Anyone who cannot support our students is free to leave." Parents shouted from the doorway, but one by one, they were drowned out by the cheers inside. And slowly, Some lowered their signs, faces conflicted. Not all stayed, but not all left. On the dance floor, Emily clung to Nyla, tears streaming down her cheeks. "They're standing up for us." Nyla's own eyes burned. "No, they're standing with us. That's the difference." The night did not become perfect. There were still whispers, still stares, still cameras capturing every second to twist online. But there was also music, laughter, the stomp of feet in unity, and a girl who dared to be seen loving another girl while the world decided whether to cheer or curse. As the hours slipped by, Nyla felt something shift. Not the end of hate, not the sudden acceptance of all, but the weight of fear lifting just enough to let hope Indiana. Emily's smile, wide and trembling, lit brighter than any spotlight. When the last song played, couples swayed across the floor. Nyla rested her forehead against Emily's, their bodies rocking gently. Denise and Marcus watched from the edge, holding hands tightly, faces wet with tears. For the first time, Denise's shoulders looked lighter, as though she'd stopped carrying the shame the world had tried to place on her family. When the final note faded, silence filled the gym. Then, without prompting, applause erupted, not for the DJ, not for the decorations, but for Nyla and Emily, standing hand in hand, refusing to disappear. But outside, in the dark parking lot, shadows lingered. Not everyone clapped. Not everyone left their hate behind. As Nyla and Emily stepped into the night, the chants had quieted, but the tension still hung heavy, a reminder that battles are never won in a single evening. Yet tonight, they had claimed something more powerful than victory. They had claimed the right to exist in love. Emily squeezed Nyla's hand as they walked toward the car. "Do you think it'll ever get easier?" Nyla looked at her, then at her parents walking behind them, tired but unbowed. She thought of the teachers who stayed silent, the students who shouted her name, the strangers who would judge her tomorrow. She thought of every battle yet to come, and she smiled, fierce and unbroken. Maybe not easier, but stronger. We'll always be stronger. The golden glow from the gym spilled onto the pavement, casting their shadows long. And for once, Nyla did not mind the shadows. They only proved the light was real. The morning after prom, Nyla woke to the buzz of her phone vibrating endlessly on her nightstand. At first, she thought it was just Emily, still giddy from the night before. But when she picked it up, her stomach sank. Dozens of notifications flooded her screen: texts, emails, social media mentions. And not the kind that celebrated victory. Her face was everywhere. Videos of her spinning Emily under the gym lights had gone viral overnight. The clip had been shared by students, then picked up by strangers, then dissected by adults who had never once stepped foot in her school. Some called it beautiful, brave, and inspiring. Others spat words like shameful, agenda, and worse. Nyla scrolled until her eyes burned, then slammed the phone face down on her desk. The glow of pride she'd felt the night before dimmed under the weight of the comments. It was one thing to stand up against whispers in a gym. It was another to be the target of an entire internet's rage. Downstairs, she heard her parents' voices. Marcus was on the phone, his tone clipped and furious. "No, my daughter will not apologize. You want to call the news? Go ahead. We'll call them too." Denise sat at the table, her head in her hands. She looked up when Nyla entered, her eyes tired. "Baby, it's everywhere." "I know," Nyla whispered. "They're saying we pushed you into this. That we—" Denise broke off, shaking her head. "They're making it about us." Marcus slammed the phone down. "Let them talk. Our job isn't to please them. Our job is her." His eyes softened as he looked at Nyla. "You hear me? You." For the first time, Nyla saw fear in her mother and fire in her father. The roles reversed. It terrified and comforted her at once. School on Monday was no better. Students crowded the hallways, some rushing to hug her, others sneering. A boy she'd known since childhood spat a slur as she walked past. Nyla spun, ready to fight, but Emily grabbed her arm. "Not like this," Emily whispered, her own face pale. "But not like this." They walked away, but Nyla's chest heaved with rage. She had thought prom would be the hardest night. She hadn't imagined the days after would feel like walking through fire. That afternoon, the principal called her into his office again. He looked older than he had a week ago, his shoulders weighed down. "Nyla," he said carefully, "I need you to know. The school board is calling an emergency meeting. Parents are demanding your resignation as class president." The words hit harder than any insult in the hallway. "My resignation? They claim your actions have divided the school, that you've politicized your role." Nyla laughed bitterly. "Me loving someone is politics now?" Hernandez's silence was answer enough. Emily reached for her hand, but Nyla pulled it back, fury too sharp to contain. "They want me gone because I'm not the kind of girl they can hold up as safe. I was fine when I was giving speeches and smiling for pictures, but the second I stop pretending, suddenly I'm a threat." "Nyla," the principal said softly, "you don't have to face this alone. We'll support you as best we can. But you need to prepare. Prepare. That word again. Prepare for hatred. Prepare for loss. Prepare to shrink herself so others could stay comfortable." Nyla walked out of the office before he could finish. That night, she and Emily sat on the porch, listening to crickets hum in the warm air. Emily rested her head on Nyla's shoulder. "They can't take away what happened," Emily said quietly. "I'll remember that night forever." Nyla kissed the top of her head. "But they can take everything else." "They won't," Emily whispered fiercely. "Because I won't let them." Nyla wanted to believe her, but doubt gnawed at her chest. The school board meeting was packed, the auditorium buzzing with parents, students, reporters. Cameras flashed as Nyla and her parents walked in. Denise wore her Sunday best, Marcus his work jacket, both standing taller than Nyla had ever seen. Emily sat in the back, her parents refusing to come, though she squeezed Nyla's hand before they parted. The board chair cleared her throat. "We are here tonight to discuss the events of the recent prom and the concerns raised by members of our community." Voices erupted at once, shouts of "Protect the children," clashing with "Let her stay." Signs waved in the back rows. A man with a cross pinned to his lapel shouted about sin, while a student yelled back about freedom. When it was Nyla's turn to speak, she stood at the microphone, heart pounding. The room felt like it was closing in, but she forced her voice steady. "I didn't run for class president to make everyone comfortable. I ran because I wanted to lead, to listen, to make our school better. If me going to prom with the person I love disqualifies me, then maybe you should ask yourselves what kind of leaders you're teaching us to be." Some applauded, others booed. One board member muttered something under his breath, but Hernandez leaned forward, his face stern. "Ms. Johnson is right. Our students are watching us. Do we teach them to hide who they are? Or do we teach them to stand with dignity, even when it's hard?" The meeting dragged for hours. In the end, no decision was made. They postponed the vote, citing further discussion. But the damage was done. Nyla walked out into flashing cameras, reporters shouting questions. "Do you regret going to prom? Are you prepared to resign? Do you think you're corrupting other students?" Marcus stepped between them, his broad shoulders blocking the lights. "My daughter doesn't owe you answers. She owes herself the right to live." For days afterward, Nyla felt like she was drowning. Hate mail appeared in their mailbox. Anonymous notes were slipped into her locker. One afternoon, someone keyed her father's truck, scrawling a slur across the side. Denise cried in the kitchen, whispering that maybe they should move, start over somewhere else. But Nyla refused. If we run, they win. Emily became her anchor in the chaos. They spent hours lying on the grass in the park, dreaming out loud about college, about leaving this town behind. Emily confessed how terrified she was of her own parents, how every conversation at home ended in shouting. "They told me I embarrassed them," Emily whispered one night, tears slipping down her cheeks, "that I made them look weak." "You're not weak," Nyla said fiercely. "You're the strongest person I know." Emily shook her head. "I'm only strong when I'm with you." The weeks blurred. The board postponed the vote again and again, pressure mounting. Students began organizing, some in support of Nyla, some against. Posters appeared in the hallways. "Love is love," beside "Keep our school pure." The air itself felt thick with conflict. One Friday, Nyla arrived at school to find dozens of students waiting outside, rainbow flags draped over their shoulders. They cheered as she walked up, chanting her name. Tears pricked her eyes as she realized she was not alone. But across the street, another group had gathered, waving signs with scripture and shouting back. Police cars lined the curb, officers watching nervously. Emily appeared beside her, clutching her hand. "This is bigger than us now," she whispered. Nyla nodded. "Then let's make it worth it." She stepped onto the steps of the school, raising her voice so it carried across the divide. "You can hate me all you want. You can try to silence me. But you can't erase me. You can't erase us." The crowd erupted, cheers and jeers colliding, the sound deafening. For the first time, Nyla felt the full weight of her place in history, not just a girl in love, but a symbol of something larger. Terrified her. It exhilarated her. That night, Denise tucked her into bed like she was still a child, brushing braids from her face. "You're so much braver than I ever was," she whispered. "And I'm so sorry for every time I made you feel small." Nyla's throat tightened. "Mama." Denise kissed her forehead. "I'll stand with you. Always." Marcus lingered in the doorway, his silhouette heavy. "The world's not fair, baby. But you're stronger than their hate." As they left, Nyla lay awake staring at the ceiling. She thought of Emily's tears, of her father's fire, of her mother's trembling love. She thought of the students who shouted her name and the ones who spat her down. And for the first time, she felt something solid under her feet, a foundation she hadn't known she was building. She was more than their whispers, more than their slurs, more than their politics. She was Nyla Johnson, and she wasn't going anywhere. The weeks that followed tested Nyla in ways she had never imagined. Each day felt like standing on the edge of a cliff, waiting for the ground to either collapse or hold firm. The school board had set the final vote for Friday night. Until then, the entire town buzzed like a hornet's nest, every conversation dripping with tension. Emily grew quieter as the days dragged on. Her parents had forbidden her from seeing Nyla outside of school. They called her names in their kitchen, names that made Emily shrink and curl into herself. But still, she found ways to slip notes into Nyla's locker, to steal a hug in the hallway, to whisper, "I love you," like it was a secret spell that kept them both breathing. On Thursday, the day before the vote, Nyla stood in front of the mirror rehearsing her speech. Words tangled in her throat. She wasn't sure anymore if speeches even mattered, if truth could sway people who had already decided to hate. But when she thought of Emily's shaking hands, of her parents standing proud in the gym, of the students who had wrapped themselves in rainbow flags and shouted her name, she knew she couldn't back down. Friday came like a storm. The boardroom was overflowing long before the meeting began. News vans parked outside, cameras trained on the doors. Reporters shouted questions as Nyla walked in with Denise and Marcus at her side. Emily slipped in through a side entrance, her face pale but determined, a rainbow pin hidden beneath her jacket. The chair banged the gavel. "We are here to determine whether Ms. Johnson will remain class president or be removed from her position." Murmurs rippled across the crowd. Some parents waved their signs again, "Protect the children," "Family first," but students countered with posters of their own. "Love makes us stronger. We stand with Nyla." When it was her turn, Nyla walked to the podium. Her knees shook, but her voice came out steady. "You want me to resign because I went to prom with the person I love. But let me ask you, what lesson do you want to teach your children? That love is shameful? That leadership only belongs to those who hide their truth? Or that courage means standing tall even when others want to tear you down? I didn't ask for this fight, but I will not be erased. If you take this position from me, you will not be protecting children. You will be telling every queer kid, every black kid, every kid who feels different, that they are not welcome to lead. And that, more than anything I've done, will divide this school." The room erupted, cheers colliding with boos. chants drowning out shouts. The board called for order, but it was chaos, raw and unstoppable. And then, to everyone's surprise, Emily stood up from the back. Her voice trembled but carried. "My name is Emily Carter. I'm Nyla's girlfriend. And I'm here because she gave me the courage to stop hiding. My parents told me I was broken, that loving her made me less. But when I look at her, I see the bravest person I know. And I know I'm not broken. I'm whole. She taught me that if you punish her for loving me, then you're punishing me too. You're punishing every student who wants to feel safe being themselves." Her words cracked, but her chin lifted. For the first time, her parents, sitting stiff in the crowd, had no words. The silence was heavy. One by one, students stood. "She's my president," one shouted. Another, "She made me feel like I belong." Dozens rose, their voices joining into a chant. "Nyla! Nyla! Nyla!" The chair banged the gavel again and again, but the sound was swallowed by the crowd. At last, when order returned, the vote was taken. 4-3. Nyla remained class president. The cheers shook the walls. Tears streaked Nyla's face as she turned to her parents, who pulled her into their arms. Emily rushed forward, wrapping herself into the embrace. For a moment, the four of them stood together, battered but unbroken, the world outside their circle fading away. But victories were never clean. After the meeting, threats poured in online, furious parents withdrew their children from the school, and local churches denounced the decision from their pulpits. The Johnson family faced harassment at the grocery store, and Marcus lost contracts at work. Emily's parents forbade her from seeing Nyla again, grounding her for weeks. Yet amidst the fire, there was light. Students painted murals on the school walls celebrating diversity. Teachers who had once stayed silent began to speak up, emboldened by the tide. Parents who had never said a word before wrote letters of support. A national LGBTQ+ youth organization reached out to Nyla, offering her a platform to share her story. One evening, as Nyla sat on the porch, Emily appeared in the shadows, breathless from sneaking out. She collapsed beside her, laughing and crying at once. "They can lock me up, but they can't keep me from you." Nyla held her close. "We'll get out of here one day. College, the world will be free." Emily's eyes glistened. "Do you think people will ever stop hating us?" Nyla looked at the stars, their light steady and ancient. "Maybe not, but love doesn't need their permission. And every time we stand up, we make it easier for someone else to breathe." The summer that followed was both brutal and beautiful. Emily fought daily battles at home, Nyla endured whispers at school, but together they carved out moments of joy. They studied for exams, planned their futures, and dreamed aloud of a life beyond the town that had both loved and tried to break them. When graduation day arrived, Nyla stood on stage in her cap and gown, delivering the valedictorian speech. Her voice rang clear across the crowd. "We are told to chase the future, but too often we are asked to leave parts of ourselves behind. I refuse. The future belongs to all of you's very color, every story, every kind of love. If you try to strip those pieces away, then you are not preparing us for the future. You are dragging us back to the past. And we deserve better." Applause thundered. Some parents sat with arms crossed, but others rose to their feet. Emily, hidden among the graduates, blew her a kiss. Denise wept openly. Marcus stood tall, pride written in every line of his face. After the ceremony, as caps flew into the sky, Nyla and Emily found each other in the chaos. They kissed, quick but certain, as cameras clicked. Some groaned, some cheered, but Nyla didn't care. For once, she felt weightless. Later that night, as they sat by the river watching the water catch the last light of sunset, Emily whispered, "Do you think this is our happy ending?" Nyla smiled, threading their fingers together. "No, this is just our beginning." The sun dipped low, the sky turning gold, then violet. And in that quiet moment, with the world still divided and uncertain, Nyla felt hope surge inside her. Not because the fight was over, it wasn't. Not because everyone accepted them, they didn't. But because she had chosen love over fear, and love, she realized, was the one battle she was destined to win. The river flowed steady. The stars returned. And in their glow, two girls sat side by side, dreaming of a future that belonged to them at last. Thank you for listening. If you find it interesting, please like and subscribe to follow the next stories.